Welcome to Hannity. President Obama stabbing Israel in the back on his way out of office. I'm Eric Bolling in for Sean tonight. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, is fired up and will be here in just a moment with reaction. But first, in what many are calling the ultimate betrayal in America's alliance with Israel, the Obama administration earlier today allowed the United Nations to pass a resolution condemning Israeli settlements in East Jerusalem and the West Bank as, quote, a flagrant violation of international law. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reacting by saying, quote, Israel rejects the shameful anti-Israel resolution at the UN and will not abide by its terms. Netanyahu adding, quote, the Obama administration not only failed to protect Israel against this gang-up at the UN, it colluded with it behind the scenes. And President-elect Donald Trump is responding by tweeting this, quote, as to the UN, things will be different after January 20th. Here now with reaction is former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton. Thank you, Ambassador Bolton. Wow, big day at the UN. So tell us, do you think that the UN Security Council colluded with the Obama administration to bring this vote today?
Well, I think certainly the sponsors of the resolution, the Egyptians, some of the others, some of the 5 permanent members of the Council, including Great Britain, obviously had to consult with the Obama administration to tell them what was in the resolution so that it was sufficient for Obama to order an abstention. The United States could have killed this resolution by voting no. It did vote no on a very similar resolution in 2011. But this was, and you said it exactly right at the top of the show, this was a stab in the back against the Israelis. It was entirely predictable. I would say this for people in the pro-Israel community in the United States who defended Obama's Middle East policy over these last 8 years. You should have seen this coming, and this is what you get for supporting Barack Obama.
Yeah, and this is a shot, I guess, it's at Israel, but also President Obama had a pretty contentious relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, I think it goes beyond the personal. I really think this was an effort to box the incoming Trump administration in, and it violates nearly 50 years of American bipartisan policy on the Middle East, going back to the iconic Resolution 242 after the 1967 war, which established the principle of land for peace. This resolution says basically Israel's occupation is illegitimate, therefore it has no land to give back in exchange for peace. Contrary to what the Obama administration has said, this puts a huge thumb on the scale against Israel. It does go to final status. It does affect Israel's security. It undermines it in profound ways. The consequences of this resolution are going to be felt for many, many years, all negative on Israel and substantially negative on the United States itself.
And let's be clear, there was quite a bit of bipartisan pushback to the U.S. abstaining from this veto. In other words, they could have vetoed it, they could have killed the resolution. They didn't, and when you think of on the right, Paul Ryan, John McCain, the list goes on. Even on the left, Chuck Schumer said the United States should have vetoed this resolution.
Yeah, they should have been, particularly in the Democratic Party, clearer on this going back for a long, long time. This subject of what Barack Obama might do with respect to Israel during the post-election, pre-inauguration period has been the subject of discussions that I've participated in for 2 years or more. It was entirely foreseeable, and now we see the consequences.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Israel's response. Now, will Israel change any policy? Will they stop building? Will they stop developing? Will they stop settling?
Not a chance, and nor should they. I tell you, this I do think, actually, contrary to what Obama said, is the death knell of the so-called two-state solution, because it shows, once again, it is fundamentally unworkable. And I think Netanyahu and a nearly unanimous Israeli public opinion will support him on that. With respect to the United States, I think it's time to stand up for a principle I've certainly advocated for a long time, which is votes in the United Nations should have consequences. We've got 2 issues here, the 14 countries that voted in favor of this resolution and the United Nations as a whole. Personally, what I would recommend to the President-elect would be, once he takes office, he should say this resolution is illegitimate and the United States is going to seek to repeal it. Now, if that fails, and that's the most likely outcome, we should cut our contribution to the United Nations. Perhaps in toto until this resolution is repealed.
This is an interesting concept, Ambassador Bolton. Right now, we account for somewhere around 20 to 22% of the total budget of the UN. So you're suggesting if the resolution isn't repealed, then we go ahead and pull the 20% of their budget?
Yeah, look, my experience with the United Nations, which goes back a long way, is that there are only two aspects of American power that are really respected in the United Nations. One is the veto in the Security Council, which Barack Obama threw away today, and the other is our money. I've personally engaged in telling specialized agencies in the UN and others that if something happens contrary to our wishes, we'll cut the money off. We have done that. I remember well in 1991, when the Security Council authorized the use of force against Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. Yemen voted no on that resolution. Jim Baker, Secretary of State in the U.S. chair at the Council, turned to those of us sitting behind him and said, that's the most expensive vote Yemen has ever cast, and we substantially eliminated their foreign aid budget. There are a lot of steps we can take here, and I hope the incoming Trump administration looks at all of them.
So I think it was 14-0. It was a unanimous vote by the Council. Who would be the most affected? I guess Egypt represents the Arab League. Who would be the most affected if we do pull back or eliminate foreign aid to these countries?
Well, I think that's one option. I'm not necessarily saying we should do it in every case. There's some of these countries where we have no effective leverage now, like Venezuela. But, you know, people have talked about what our relationship with Russia might be. This shows, regardless of personal relationships, Russia is always prepared to shaft the Middle East, the United States in the Middle East. It's been doing it under Obama for 8 years. This is one more piece of evidence of it. It's just extremely distressing that even Great Britain didn't abstain on this resolution, and it shows just how much difficulty there is in the United Nations to try and carry out a coherent American foreign policy.
You bring up Russia. Talk to us a little bit about the back and forth that went down today. Vladimir Putin commended Donald Trump on his victory, gave him a pat in the back. He also sends him a letter, and Donald Trump tweeted, thank you. And tell us about that relationship. Is it that bad to have a good relationship with Russia?
Well, it's a question of what our national interests are compared to Russia's. And I think the exchange of comments today that's gotten the most attention has been on the nuclear front. And I think Trump was exactly right to say that he's not going to let the U.S. nuclear capability be second to anybody else, including Russia. The Obama administration has put us in I think, an inferior position with their misguided New START treaty, which was negotiated and ratified back in 2010, ratified, I'm sorry to say, with the support of a lot of Republican members of Congress. I think it's time to look again at that entire relationship. I don't think we should be negotiating bilateral strategic arms treaties with the Russians anymore. The world is a lot more complicated in nuclear terms than it was during the Cold War, when that was more sensible. And I think this goes to the review that our military needs to conduct of how to rebuild our deterrent capability in both conventional and strategic weapons urgently.
Okay, Ambassador, I only have about a minute or so, or a little less, but I think this is fantastic. President-elect Donald Trump says, you know what, we are going to be the #1 superpower in the world. And also, by the way, we get along with #2. It's not going to be a contentious relationship between the United States and Russia. That sounds like a good deal to me.
Well, if we can sustain it, a lot depends on Russia. If it stops military intervention in bordering countries like Ukraine, if it refrains from provocations in countries like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, if it pulls back from its really harmful intervention in the Middle East and some of its other activities, then I think we've got a basis for constructive discussion. But I tell you, one thing that my experience of negotiating with the Russians has shown is that if you show toughness to them, they respect it. They haven't seen that in 8 years.
All right, we're going to leave it right there, Ambassador Bolton. Thank you very much.
Thank you.